All right. Got it. All right. And just keep letting people in. Anyway, hi, everyone. I am Rebecca Aguilar, president of SPJ, just in case you don't know. Thanks for joining us tonight for this Delegate Task Force Town Hall. Tonight, we will be hearing your feedback on the recommendations by the SPJ Task Force Delegate Analysis Task Force to replace the current delegate voting system with a one-member, one-vote system. We'll also be hearing your input on other recommendations that involve membership issues. Joining us tonight is the head of the task force, Adam Sennett, and Brendan O'Reilly, who's also on the task force committee. Here's the guidelines. This will be a 1-hour session. Everyone gets 2 minutes to speak. President-elect Claire Regan, who has also joined us, has graciously agreed to keep time. When she says your 2 minutes are up, they're up. I don't want to mute anybody. Board members will be listening to your feedback. Some are here, some will watch the recording. Yes, this is a recorded session, and whatever you put in the chat will also be part of the SPJ record. The board, including me, will not be answering questions about the recommendations. The board will be voting on the task force recommendations on Saturday, June 4th. Please mark your calendar. If approved, they will be sent to the Bylaws Committee, who will draft the language for the bylaws that ultimately the delegates will vote on at the convention. Okay, let's get started. Let's be positive, productive, and respectful, okay? Adam, please give us a brief insight into the recommendations, just like a refresher so everybody can hear about them right now. Adam?
Yep. So very briefly, we recommended to move away from the delegate system and replace it with the one person, one vote system. We also recommended giving members 60-day window to provide feedback to the bylaws committee before the bylaws moves any recommendations.
Excuse me, Adam, I'm sorry. Everybody, John, can you mute everybody if possible? Some of you are not muted.
I will need to speak up.
Yes. And so please mute if you're not speaking. Adam, I'm sorry.
No worries. So providing a 60-day window for members to provide feedback to the bylaws committee before bylaws would get moved to the board. We also recommended getting rid of the current language to provide a petition to the board with 10 chapters. We also recommended that the board be the only group that can interpret the bylaws, and that we resolve our membership issues. In terms of the petition, Bill Blyer, a longtime member of the Long Island chapter and former membership committee chair, has recommendations to sort of complement the task force recommendations, although they are separate, for a petition, which would be able to replace the language that was there. So he is gonna provide that to you momentarily, I guess.
All right, Bill, are you there? I'd like to hear them, please. The board would like to hear them.
Okay, just as Adam said, I was former membership chair, I was former RD, former Long Island president, so I've been on all sides of these endless debates about, voting and delegates, and I understand because we really appreciated the power that the votes could give you in the old days, but it's just gotten extremely complicated with communities and issues that weren't there 20, 30, 40 years ago. There's a lot of abuse now. It's gotten very complicated, and one person, one vote is just a simple way to go. So I think delegates system has passed its prime and has become counterproductive. But so I've had a lot of discussions with people on the committee, other chapter leaders. I think the recommendations are good. I just wanted to recommend two things. One is sort of to spell out what's implied, but not specifically spelled out, because people have said, they don't want to lose the debate, even if it's not not a delegate system. So I think the bylaws committee or the board, if you approve this, needs to spell out that there would still be a discussion debate at the first business meeting about any proposed bylaws changing coming from the board
Region 9
and the
Join
committee.
the meeting.
And then you go on and do, as I said, it would be discussed, then voted electronically, no amendments allowed on the floor, so you don't have sort of last minute half-ass things that haven't been thought out getting approved. But I think you need to spell out that procedure. There will be debate, discussion, and then it goes to a full electronic vote, like which is how everything is. The officers are being elected anyhow. The other thing that I've recommended is I got involved nationally because the board back in the dark ages was very autocratic. They wouldn't even give the chapters much light of day. We're not, whatever we said was wrong, the board knew everything. So I started out as a renegade leading, a revolution basically at a Chicago convention. So there are times where the board can be kind of dictatorial. So I think there needs to be a procedure for the members to basically overrule the board and the bylaws committee if they feel strongly about it, because it is a membership organization and the ultimate authority should remain with the members. So what I'm proposing, after talking to people on the committee and others, is that if 250 members sign a petition representing at least 10 chapters, they can bring and it has to be done 60 days out. They could bring a bylaws.
Your time is running out.
Okay, basically that if they meet those conditions, they could bring a bylaws change right for a vote. Again, no amendments, but up or down, but they can overrule the board and the bylaws committee if they meet that criteria.
All right, Bill, if you can put that in writing and send it to the board or send it to Adam to send to us, then the board can look at it, your additional recommendations. Thank you for your input.
Rebecca,
Actually, I did send it to Adam and to you already, Rebecca, so you should have it, but if not, I can resend it.
Yes, Claire.
McNally is asking to speak.
Yeah, I know
next.
she's working. McNally, go ahead.
I just wanted
Kelly,
to, I wanted to voice my support for the one vote, one rule. I mean, guys, it's time to move on with the times. Look at the Electoral College. That's an obsolete system. We need to get rid of that too. So I kind of scanned through this quickly because I'm working on the report and all these other organizations, some of them that I'm a member and I serve on the board, NHA, IRE, we have moved on with the times. One person, one vote. Okay, good luck with that.
Thank you, McNally. You're gonna have to raise your hand, people, so I can call on you, or raise your hand physically so I can see you, because I think we have, who wants to speak? Anybody else? I'm looking. Okay, Joanna Hernandez, go for it.
Yes, thank you so much for having this meeting and for allowing us to speak on this. McNally, 100%, I agree with her. I think it's time for us to move on, and I think it's time for us to move forward with one vote per person for it to count, because as she said, and as everyone is, I came on just while Bill was speaking, and I really appreciated what I heard, Bill. It's time for us. I recommend this. I just wanted to give you a little background, just 1 second before I hand it on to Neha. I'm the former president of Unity. I also very active in NAHJ still, and this is what is needed for us to move forward as an organization of journalists. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanna. Appreciate it. All right, who is next? And again, Nia Curtis. Nia, you're up.
Hey, everyone. I just wanted to echo what Joanna was saying as well. I think it's really important that we do have one vote per member, just because every person needs to have a voice. And I think we're an organization of journalists that understands that how important that is for inclusion. And I've been part of many organizations in journalism where it's often felt like I did not belong or I did not have a voice. And I think going forward, being able to use my vote for an issue that I think is important, and I think that is for everyone, is really, really going to be vital, is how we move forward as an organization.
Nia Curtis, thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, anybody else? I don't want to have to cut this short. Anybody? I'm looking for hands. Anybody? Anybody?
It's like,
Oh yeah, Susan, go ahead. Susan,
you're on.
you have to unmute yourself, my friend. Susan, I'm waiting for you.
There we
Susan
go.
Stevens.
Okay, all right. I think the one person, one vote is the way to go. We should have done this years ago, and I'm glad we're looking at it now. It is unfortunate that this issue was raised on the heels of the debate about committees versus chapters and delegates. Hazel Becker has done a wonderful job with the freelance committee and should be applauded for that extensively. Unfortunately, she's taken a lot of flack over this whole thing, and she doesn't deserve it. And I do applaud her for the committee work she has done. And she and Bob have been mainstays for years, and they deserve our deepest gratitude for everything. But nevertheless, one person, one vote. Yes, thank you.
Susan, thank you so much. And you're right. Hazel and Bob Becker have contributed a lot to our organization, and we appreciate it. I know Hazel has worked hard with the freelance community, making it strong every year. So I appreciate that. Anybody out there, please mute yourselves so this way we can hear everybody who's speaking. All right, April Bethia, you're next. You have to unmute yourself. It's okay.
Sorry, my headphones weren't out the way in. I understand the rationale for the one person, one vote, but I did have a question about one of the motions that were voted down. The motion related to a supermajority. I noted with the organizations, the other organizations and listed in the report, I think all but one of them do require at least a 2/3 vote for an amendment to be approved. So I'm a little curious about the opposition to that for SPJ. So I don't know if anyone
Adam?
from the task force can talk about that.
Thank you. Good question. Adam?
Yeah,
Or
so I
Brenda?
believe that was voted down 3-4. I guess I can't really talk very much about the opposition because I was in favor of it, and I believe Brendan was too. But I believe that if I'm remembering our discussion correctly, that those who were opposed to it felt like a majority rules system would be the most effective. But I did support, Brendan and I both did support that as well. I hope that
Thank you.
answers the question.
Thank
If
you.
I could just add, since I was there too, there was a concern that it was going to be like the Senate where everything needs 60 votes to pass and that really good ideas were going to be filibustered. That being said, I think that changing the bylaws is a big deal, and I proposed and I supported 2/3 for a bylaws amendment.
There you go. Thank you so much for answering those questions. Hillary Niles.
Hi, thanks. That wasn't the point that I wanted to raise, but I would just echo and appreciate you, April, bringing that up. I echo the value of a 2/3 majority vote to amend the bylaws. And I have two things to say, kind of both of them questions or just like something to think about. I also am a member of some other organizations, both journalistic and not journalistic, that are like a one member, one vote, system. And that works fine for them. But those organizations, the key difference that I perceive in the nature
Jenny McCabe,
in the
join the meeting.
in the nature and structure of the organizations is that those organizations don't have local chapters. And my main source of curiosity about switching to one member, one vote for SPJ is about the way that that changes the dynamics between the chapters and the national organization. So I just wanted to throw that out there as like, something to chew on and think about and maybe talk about here or another forum. And also, I wanted to see if it would be possible for, this is like logistical, but meaningful, in the events calendar online. I noticed that the description of the event for the town hall, this and the second town hall session, just say like to discuss the recommendations of the delegate task force. And that seems to me to be an error of omission because it doesn't reflect the importance and the elemental structural change that those recommendations embody. So I wanted to make a suggestion or request that maybe the event listing for the second meeting could be revised to reflect the truly substantial nature of the changes that have been recommended.
Let me Let me jump in real quick. First of all, the recommendations are placed on there, so I think anybody can download the changes. One of the things that our staff does is put it there, and that's why you can download everything we're going to discuss. So while you want more language in there, I think the majority of the people can see it from just downloading what the task force has recommended, including the people or person who were opposing to certain areas. I just want to do one thing, that there may be journalism organizations that don't have chapters, but some of the largest, NABJ, NHJ, AAJA, NAJA,
Jenny
all have
McCabe
majority of chapters.
joined
They
the
have
meeting.
chapters. And the one person, one vote system has worked. So I'm not really sure what groups you're a member of, but I know where I have been a member of, and they've had chapters that have worked very well with the process. But thank you for your input. I appreciate it. And yes, we will take into consideration what you suggested. All right, Colin DeVries, please.
Bob Shapiro first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bob Shapiro.
Okay,
Okay, Claire.
thank you. Sure. Kind of on the same topic, how does it affect chapters? Let me talk about an instance where I thought the system worked really well, which was in 2014, when the matter was whether to change the name to the Society for Professional Journalism, which I thought would be a profound change if it happened. And we had a year to discuss it, and we had a special meeting, and a fair number of members came in person to the meeting because they had an opinion on this. But we had a whole year, and I think this was handled well, in contrast to last year, where it started at the beginning of the summer. It was a profound change. And let's be honest, most of our members ignore nationals politics. You can talk to them about national doing something on ethics or doing something for Ukraine, but if you start talking about nationals politics, they absolutely tune out. On the other hand, they don't want to wake up after the convention and find they're in a profoundly different organization than the one they were in a week ago. So I think the important thing is that very big issues, and we had one last year, get time to be discussed. It sometimes feels at SPJ that the things we should hurry take a long time, and the things that we really ought to consider sometimes happen a little too quickly. Our chapter, we discussed this, we're going to back New Jersey, one person, one vote.
15 seconds, Bob, just letting you know.
And we also want to thank Adam and the committee for all the work they did.
Bob, thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it. Thinking about what you're saying, the beauty about, either or, you're going to have a say, whether you're a delegate or a one person, one vote. And I think that, again, individuals in your chapter will have a say. When it comes to communication, different from back in the day, we have social media now. And I think that one of the things that our staff does well is put things out on our social media so everybody can see. I mean, nights I put out a video. In few hours, it can get 1,000 hits. So it's important for us as journalists to keep communicating, to make sure we keep them informed. Yes, don't get involved in the politics. Sometimes they drain me, right? But be involved in knowing where you put your $75. That's what's important. Thank you, Bob, for your feedback. Who's next, Claire?
Colin is next, but he's having trouble with his connection. Colin?
Okay.
So we go to Hazel Becker.
Hey, guys.
Oh, there's Colin.
Hello?
Yes, Colin,
Hey.
we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so no, I just wanted to put on the record that, I'm Colin, I'm the Deadline Club president in New York. And just on the record that I totally support one person, one vote. I think the delegate system has grown outdated. It's also limiting the democratic principle of our society to allow each member to participate in crafting policies that govern the society. So I feel like it just makes sense at this state, this moment, to move forward to do one person, one vote. We have the technology available. I also do think that if more people feel like they are part of the process, I disagree with the fact that because we don't have a delegate system, it would weaken the attendance at the annual conference. I think if more people felt that they are able to participate in the policy making and have an individual voice, you might actually see more people coming to participate in that process on the ground at the conference. So I just feel like it's something that we should definitely move toward, definitely give it a shot. And I think it'll be better for the organization overall and make us stronger and make more people feel like they're heard. And that's a good thing. So that's really all I wanted to share.
Thank you, Colin. I appreciate your feedback. Congratulations also to your chapter for their big awards banquet. I do want to say this, that, NHJ, NEBJ, they don't have a delegate system, but let me just say, they're already outselling their convention in Las Vegas that's coming up. The rooms are already blocked. So it's no delegate system that's keeping them away. Everybody goes. If you care about journalism, you're going to go. Whether you're a delegate or not, you're going to go. NEBJ and NHJ are approving it in August. So pretty much, I'm surprised they're not even sold out yet. The hotels are sold out, but that's it. All right, next. Let me see. Is it Hazel? Hazel?
Becker.
Hazel Becker.
I disagree with the idea of one member, one vote, and I have what I feel is a pretty good reason for that. And that is that I feel that having the delegate system gives people a chance to become more involved with SPJ and understand where the organization is and where it's going and what's going on for us. And that is a good thing to get people involved, and particularly people who are not in chapters or active in communities and don't have another way to be involved. And with that in mind, I'd just like to encourage the board and the nominating committee and anybody else who's really active on the national level to find a way to keep that pipeline going and see to it that we are welcoming and having new people get involved and bring them along, so that we don't end up with people who don't know anything about the organization ending up on the board and not really knowing how to contribute.
Hazel, thank you so much for your feedback. Yes, I just want to let you guys know, since September, since our board and our staff, we have 1,400 new members. So they're coming in. And one of the things I did right away is revamped all the committees, brought in new blood, new heads, new everything, because I wanted people to have the opportunity to serve. So you're right, Hazel, we bring them in. And I think what's great about the communities, the committees, the chapters, we're bringing in people. We just have to continue that, whether we keep a delegate system or not, whether we keep it or not. So again, thank you for that input. Who is next, Claire?
Tim, I go.
Tim. Hi, Tim.
Good afternoon, Rebecca. Good to see you all. Thank you very much for holding this. I want to, without echoing what everybody said, say I am willing to learn, but I am generally in favor of what I'm hearing about one person, one vote. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm a member of, I'm sorry, I should say I'm in the Arizona chapter out here in Phoenix. I'm a member of, I think, 4 national organizations of journalists. They're all active and busy, and they do extremely well with a one person, one vote. My question is, what happens next? And so I'm very curious, and I don't know if Rebecca, you can speak to this. When the board meets on June 4th, after hearing all this feedback at 2 town halls, by what criteria are you determining whether this goes to a member vote and or to a vote at the convention? Because it would seem to me the standard cannot simply be whether you agree with it or you don't. It should be, I think, that did the task force, was it called for in plenary session? It was. Did it fulfill its mission? It did. And assuming those things, did it meet in good faith? It absolutely did. So I don't know how the board could consider otherwise than offering this to a vote.
Well, you know, this is why we have these town halls, so we can hear everybody's feedback, who wants it, who doesn't want it. And this is something I mentioned before some of you joined us. It was already scripted out, by the way, that what happens here is on June 4th, we will vote on it, hearing everything you have to say, any emails, that kind of thing. We're gonna look at everything. Then we vote. If it doesn't pass, that's it. If it does pass the board, then it goes to the bylaws committee. They're gonna write up the language, right? So then at the October convention, the delegates will decide whether it remains the delegate system or it does not. That's how the process works. Is that what you wanted to know?
Yes, I appreciate that. That is helpful. I guess, as you might see, I'm telegraphing here. I believe the standard should simply be, did the task force do its job? Are these reasonable? Not whether I agree with it. I mean, we saw what happened in our own country a year ago when some people said that the vice president could decide if he liked things rather than did the groups charged with doing their job do their job. And I think the task force did its job. I think this should be a simple decision for the board.
It should be, but again,
Thank you.
Everybody, you know, the delegates will decide. But thank you. I appreciate you coming. Hope everything's good in Phoenix. All right, who's next, Claire?
Frederick Mello.
Hi, Frederick. Good to see you. You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Well, first of all, thank you for hosting and coordinating this. It's very helpful to kind of hear things directly from people. I don't want to reiterate too much of what's already been said because I agree with most of it. Just wanted to respond respectfully to Hazel Becker here. A few years ago, we had, you know, one of these conventions where delegates were called upon to vote on, you know, a resolution should we condemn a certain presidential candidate for making fun of a disabled journalist. I live tweeted that discussion, and frankly, I got interest from people who weren't even part of SPJ, who were fascinated. They wanted to know. They wanted to be involved in the discussion. They wanted to know the result. Right now, our system is such a black box that we don't get that kind of electricity and energy at these meetings. We get a constitutional crisis and a constitutional convention every year. It's not welcoming for the new talent, the next generation, the college students, the young professionals. It's a black box. And the more we can make things transparent and really take things directly to the members and say, this is what we're voting on. We're voting on condemning a presidential candidate for making fun of a disabled reporter. That's the kind of organization that I, 20 years ago, would have said, wow, this is cool. Let me join. How do I get more involved? How do I go to your annual conference? I think it's a recruitment tool. One person, one vote is a recruitment tool. And I think that was my buzzer, so I'll shut up now, but thank you.
No, thank you very much. I like that recruitment tool. Never heard that one before. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming too for tonight. Claire, who's next?
I don't see any other hands up. There's some chatting going on, so wait a second.
Well, you know, if you people are chatting, why don't you just say it publicly?
Well, I was going to say if they want to raise their hand again, it's some people who've already spoken.
Okay, all right. So people remember that it will be kept for the SPJ record. Anybody else?
There's nobody. Brendan has hand up, and
Ebony's hand was up first.
Yeah, my hand was up first.
Ebony, all right.
Hi. I just want to say I've enjoyed hearing the dialogue back and forth about the issues. I'm a newer member to SPJ, but I'm a member of NABJ, where we have the one member, one vote system. I very much like what I just heard about the engagement piece, and I don't understand the lack of potential engagement by removing the delegate system and allowing people to speak their minds or to sound off on particular issues. So just want to vocally say, for the record, echoing many of the voices that I've already heard today, that I support the member, one vote system. I was expecting more, I guess, discussion on the pushback. I understood that there was like a letter that many people signed. And I'd like to hear more about people who don't agree with the system. So I'm hoping to hear more.
Let me just clear the record. It was only 20 people that signed it. And, you know, I'm not here to discuss what they discuss. I mean, you know, you can go find the letter if you want to.
Yeah, no, I've seen it, but I expected more.
I just want to let you know it wasn't many, it was 20. But I'm sure they're connected to many. So don't want to minimize anybody at all. All right, let me see.
And
Brendan.
April.
Thank you, Ebony. Appreciate your feedback. I'm sorry. No.
Brendan.
April, did you want, no, Brendan, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So one of our recommendations that I don't think we've discussed yet is we want to get rid of the option to have further amendments to propose bylaws changes at the convention. Or if we're not having a delegate system, you know, we'd have to kind of get rid of that anyway, because there'd be no other mechanism to. And the reason why I think this is important is because the bylaws amendments that get proposed by the bylaws committee and approved by the board, they go through a lot of review. There's opportunities for feedback. People get to the convention, they think they're voting on one thing. Well, guess what? Somebody else comes in the last second, they have an amendment, and now that last second amendment is getting as much debate as a carefully crafted bylaws change that has been under a lot of scrutiny. And now the convention has just been derailed by something somebody could have come up with off the top of their head. I found that it just created a mess, and it can create some issues where we're introducing bylaws amendments that nobody studied them, so we don't realize that it conflicts with some other area of the bylaws. So I just want to point that out, because I think abolishing the delegates is just getting the most attention here, but it's not the only thing that we recommended. Regarding abolishing the delegates, I showed up to that convention my first time. I had 2 votes as a chapter president because SPJ thought we had less than 100 members, when the truth is we have more than 100. Should have had 3. Didn't really think it was a big deal until I showed up and I found out one person had 10 votes, who was a chapter member who quit their chapter to pretend to be an unaffiliated member so they could have 10 votes. Somebody else had 6 votes because they did the same thing. Somebody else lived in an area served by a chapter, but for some reason was an unaffiliated regional delegate and had 8 votes. So I'm there with 2 votes, 3 people had 24 votes locked up. That's not democratic to me. I felt like I was wasting my time, and if that's how it's going to be in the future, I'm just not going to attend. I'm not going to go cast 3 votes against somebody else who has 10. The delegate system has been locked up by insiders.
Brendan, time is up.
Okay.
If you want to just wrap up your sentence, you can, but yeah.
The system's been locked up by insiders. We want one person, one vote. Everybody gets to vote at the convention. People who were opposed to the community's bylaws change were accused of being anti-suffragettes. Well, guess what? We're here. We want to give everybody a vote.
Okay, good.
Very well said, Brendan. Very well said. And by the way, the people making suggestions in the chat, I'm sorry, I don't have time to read all that, but John will take it into consideration. We'll be talking how much detail. Again, we don't want to add a gazillion things on the website because it's just a lot to read. But if you want some clarification, we will definitely discuss it. Anybody else? April, I see you want to speak again, but let me get through the crowd here. Anybody else? Anybody? Yes.
Bob Becker has his hand up.
I see him. Bob Becker?
Yeah, I just want to set the record straight here for a minute, because the 2 times that chapters overrode a board decision not to present bylaws amendments to the convention, the chapters presented the amendments that the bylaws committee drafted. This has not been used to create new spur of the minute bylaws amendments. They were the same amendments that the bylaws committee proposed that the chapters thought should be approved. The second thing is, before last year, there were only 2 regional delegates at any convention, me and Lauren Bartlett. Both of us have been chapter leaders. I live within a chapter area. I have made a conscious decision, as half the SPJ members in the DC area have, not to be a chapter member. And I think by representing the unaffiliated members, I am giving them a voice in the convention. And I communicate with them before the convention about what business is coming up, and I ask for their feedback. So the system isn't working well because there aren't enough regional delegates, but it can work. And I resent the notion that the people who have worked hard to get things passed, that the board rejected, but actually have been productive. We're doing this because it's a power game. We are not. We are doing it, and I think I can speak for everybody who was involved in the belief that what we are doing, or were doing, was in the best interest of SPJ at the time. And they continue to believe it, and so do I. Thank you.
Thank you for your perspective, Bob. All right, who's next?
Can I say something?
Yes, Adam, go ahead.
I just want to say, I just to quickly clarify, I think what Brendan was talking about when he was talking about amendments was amendments being offered on the floor. Like last year, there was a big amendment that some people agreed to behind the scenes right before the delegate meeting to change the language to the bylaws proposal that would have given communities delegate votes. And there was even talk at the convention as to whether that was a major change or not. So I think that's the type of amendments Brendan is referring to. I'd also
That's
just
exactly what I was referring to. Thank you.
And I'd also just like to point out that in terms of the delegate system giving engagement to people, you know, we got the numbers from John, our executive director, and there were 54 chapters represented at the convention last year and 120 that weren't. There were 7 regions that went unrepresented last year. And the ones that were for regional delegates were represented by longtime chapter members, not members who were truly, you know, unaffiliated members. So just want to say that. Thank you very much.
Adam, thank you very much for doing the research, getting the facts. That's important. I mean, that's just alarming on many counts, you know, how many chapters were not involved and how many people did have many of the delegate votes. That's something to definitely think of. Thank you for your research. Appreciate that. Brendan, you too. Bob Butler.
Thanks, Madam President. I'm a former president of NABJ. I sit on the board of SAG-AFTRA right now. And it's pretty much one person, one vote for both organizations. If you want to change the Constitution, we have a meeting with the board of directors, then the convention. And in some cases, it'll go out to the membership for a vote. For SAG-AFTRA, the national board has the authority and it represents the members. So each national board member has so many votes based on the population of their local. And I think that's the closest we have come to one person, one vote there, because it's not really feasible to have 165,000 members call into a meeting to give their vote. They do vote on contracts. They do vote on constitutional amendments via mail ballot, but that's the way that goes. So I don't see what the problem with one person, one vote is, and especially if they're going to be able to vote online for something big like a bylaw change or a constitutional amendment.
Bob, let me ask you this. NABJ doesn't have a delegate system. There's a talk out there that if we don't have delegates, you know, we will have less people at the convention. Has that been a problem at NABJ? I'm sorry, how long have you been a member of NABJ?
Since 2000.
2000, okay. Has that been a problem that you guys don't have delegates and for that reason people don't show up?
Well, the ugly truth is people come to the convention, they don't come to the business meeting. The business meeting is usually held Friday morning, 8 o'clock, and you know, the attendance is very sparse. So that does give an outsized vote to the people who do come to the meeting. So if they decide they want to shoot something down, they can always get people together to vote one way or the other. But it is democratic in that we have to have a quorum at the business meeting based on those attending the convention. So it's not the entire membership, just the convention itself. So no, NABJ has no trouble getting people coming to the convention. There's one that's coming up in August in Las Vegas between NAHJ and NABJ. Will have a ton of people at it. But how many come to the business meeting? That's a whole different story.
Yeah, of course. I just wanted that insight about you guys not having a delegate system. All right, who else? Let me see, how are we on time? I got 20 more minutes. Anybody else? I'm looking. A lot of new faces.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Hey, Rebecca, it's Jenny McCabe on the phone.
Hi, Jenny. Let me hear you.
I like to make a comment whenever it's my turn. I'd like to make a comment.
Oh, go ahead. You can now. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you. I just wanted to make a note that Cincinnati as a chapter has not formally voted on the issue, but we did bring it up at our last monthly board meeting a few days ago, and I did share the information. But there are several people that are concerned and prefer the delegate system. I don't want to speak on behalf of my board until we take a formal vote, but I did just want to mention that. And also, I'm a chapter president in Cincinnati and also a board member of the freelance community. And I felt like the information overall, I know that the delegate task force report was released at the last board meeting and has since been released online. But I felt like throughout the whole process, we were getting bits and pieces of information. And I did speak to Adam and had a few questions answered, but we do just have some concerns, I think, about the way everything came together. And then also there are several people that on our board that are in favor of the delegate system. That's
And
all I
then-
have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jenny, for your feedback. First of all, we released the information at the same time. There was no bits and pieces. So I'm not really, because I'm one that I didn't want anybody to accuse our board of exactly that. We released things on bits and pieces. So as you know, we released it right after that board meeting. It is up for anybody to download. That's one thing that I made sure. You know, that's kind of puzzling to me that you said, but I will listen and
I think
you
I
know,
just
I'm gonna
meant,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Rebecca, I think I just
lost-
meant throughout the process, Rebecca.
Yeah, well, you know,
I think I
and
just
let me
meant-
say this. Yeah, okay, I'm glad for your clarification. I will say this, I, as the head of this organization, had the task force take on the task, do their meetings, and then once they brought everything together, as they did with the recommendations, then release it. I was not gonna piecemeal things because what happens when you start a piece here and a little piece there, there's misinformation. And then, you know, and that's what I try to avoid noise and drama. And so that's why I have a task force get this job done, which they did a great job, you know, whether they were for it or against it or whatever, and they put out the release the information. That's the kind of journalist I am. Gather the facts, put it all together, get it all nice firmed up as the task force did, and put it out as we did. So I'm sorry you felt that way, but the information is there and there's still another informational meeting and no one gets to vote on anything until October. So Jenny, you have lots of time. All right, who's next?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for your great conference you had.
Can I go again? I don't know how to raise my hand. I haven't never done
Sure,
that
Bill.
before. I just like to address a couple of the reasons people say we should stick with the delegate system, because I don't think it makes sense.
All right, you got 2 minutes.
Okay, so the chapters said, some chapters say we're going to lose influence, and clout. The thing is, you don't lose your members. So if every member in your chapter votes, you don't need the delegates. So if you have 250 members and your chapter discusses something and say we like this, we don't like it, if all your members vote, it's the same thing as having delegates. And people that are passionate are going to show up to talk about it, whether they're a delegate or just an individual vote. And and there's plenty, as Rebecca said, there's plenty of opportunities to get involved on committees. I mean, that's one constant I've seen in 40 years of SPJ. If you want to get involved, you can get involved. There's all kinds of ways, committees, task force, and just showing up at the convention. So I really don't see any negatives. I mean, the people that think it's scary to lose it, I think it's just inertia.
Bill, let me go off something from what you said. Here's what I would do to all you people who are concerned about, the chapters not having delegates. Reach out to your local NJ or NABJ or AAJ or NAJA chapter. See how it's working with them. Open your eyes and heart to that. See, how's it working? I mean, we have a delegate system that this is how it works. How does it work with you guys? Reach out to them. I mean, wherever you have a chapter, like I know in Dallas, the NHJ and NABJ both have big chapters here that SPJ Fort Worth can go and talk to. So reach out, be the journalist you are. Reach out, find out the information. If it's not working for them, then you have something to come back and say, hey, it's not working for them. Here's the results. That's what I would recommend. Thank you, Bill. Anybody else? Anybody? I'm seeing a lot of new faces here tonight. Thank you. I've never seen you before, so I appreciate you coming.
I just want to say something really quick.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
If the delegate system is really such an important way for people to get involved in the organization, where are all the people tonight who would want to be involved with the delegate system? Most of the people here tonight have spoken in favor of the one person, one vote. The majority of the people who are on the list that got sent out to oppose it, they're not here tonight. If it's such a draw, where is everyone? I expected there to be more people here tonight, so I just wanted to say that.
Valid point, Adam, valid point. Maybe they'll show up at the next one. I hope so. Whoever signed that letter, encourage those people to come. I'd like to hear from them, especially if, I wanted to see the people that signed that letter, those 20 people. I know some of you are here, but you put it in writing, come here, speak up. Say something. You know, this is your moment. I don't want anybody to accuse anybody. "Oh, we didn't get a say. We didn't do this." I hear so many complaints. Come on, people. You know, this is why the board put this informational meeting now, and we have another one on June 1st for the people on the West Coast, because they're all working right now. Oh, and there's people on the East Coast working too. All right, Molly?
That point alone is what concerns me the most about this town hall, that the folks who seem to be out in force that are in support, including me, one member, one vote after a long time in SPJ. I do have a concern that once we get to the convention, that the delegates will rally and shoot this down. So I hope that the momentum continues and that this group, at least the ones in favor of one member, one vote, are able to help persuade those who are not in favor of it, or who can help us have conversations with folks.
Thank you, Molly, for your input. I really appreciate you being here. Yeah, I mean, if you're committed to which side you stand up, say something, you know, don't just show up at the convention because, you know, I mean, I do want you to show up in the convention and decide, but Molly has a great point. You know, I hope I hear from those people, not just, you know, the 20 people that signed that letter. Erwin, you're next. Hello.
Myself, there we go. Good evening. It's great to hear from all of these folks tonight. I am one of the people who signed that letter. I'm not really crazy about this idea. As Bill Blyer-Wells knows, we already paid a price in Region 1 for one person, one vote just for offices. And, you know, there probably is no perfect system. It'll be interesting to see what the delegates decide to do with this recommendation. As Bob Becker was saying before, I do think the delegate system can be made to work. In the end, there are no perfect systems. One of the things that I do like about the delegate system is that it does allow for debate. It does allow for amendments. And in my 20 years of attending the meetings, we have scotched far more bad ideas through amendments than we have perhaps taken up any, you know, and destroyed any good ones at the last minute. So there are some proposals, you know, as you guys know, for conducting informational meetings for people to learn about stuff. The electronics do give us tools we didn't have before. It'll be interesting to see. And the other thing that I wanted to point out, because somebody made mention of this before, you know, in the end, if we do go to one person, one vote on all these issues, be aware that the number of people who actually do vote winds up being relatively limited anyway. I mean, we've never had anywhere close to half of the society members vote in any of our elections so far. So, you know, it's, as I say, no perfect system. Be interesting to see how the debate continues to develop. And thank you.
Thank you, Erwin, for your feedback. Again, what's important is go see what the other organizations are doing. The ones that do have delegates, I don't even know if anybody has delegates, or the ones that don't have delegates. It's been working for somebody. And so I think it's important that, you know, and again, when it comes to voting, Erwin's right. A lot of people don't vote, but, you know, I know when I ran for president, a lot of people voted. So, you know, I think that whatever we decide in this issue, it will be something that hopefully will move us forward, not stand us still. You know, that's one of the things that, you know, being in my position, I believe in looking in the future, the vision, not being stuck in the past. Sometimes that doesn't work. But anyway, all right, next.
I'd just like to quickly add on to what Erwin said. I think Erwin's right. The turnout probably won't be very high. But our intent and expectation as a task force wasn't that the turnout would be very high. It's that everybody would have an opportunity instead of having to rely on a chapter that might not show up. I also wanted to say I talked to NABJ President Dorothy Tucker recently, and she told me that one person, one vote works very well for NABJ. But she also, you know, said, as Erwin would expect, that the turnout for their national elections is about 20%, and it's less for bylaws, for proposed bylaws changes. So I don't think the expectation when we made that recommendation was that a lot of SPJ members were necessarily going to be getting involved, but that they would have the opportunity to if they wanted to.
And you know, voters come out. I mean, again, the board members, we were voted I mean, delegates didn't vote us. It was members. They're the ones who voted. Thank you, members, for voting me in. But you know, I think in many cases it does work. But again, you know, we're hearing your recommendations. Who's next? John, how much time we have? We got 10 minutes. I'm going to be wrapping it up in 5 minutes, by the way. Anybody else? Anybody has their last say?
Rebecca,
You know.
I actually had some questions for the people just to think about for later, but I want to go after everyone has spoken.
All right.
Okay, just
Jennifer
mix them
Ellis.
all.
Let me go with Jennifer and then I'll go with you, Alex. Jennifer?
Okay, well, I am signed up to go to both meetings, which is why I didn't necessarily want to speak, but since everyone is encouraging, there are a few reasons why I signed on to the letter opposing this. I don't know that one member, one vote on this would be the worst thing in the world. I don't think that that's the case, but I do like the delegate system. I think there are things that are wrong with it, which is what I really had hoped that the delegate task force would look into, and really in their recommendations or motions, really the only thing they talked about was keep the delegate system or get rid of it and try to fix the problems, and never really went into discussing about what possible solutions to the problems there could be. And I would love to see that. I would like to see that perhaps regional delegates be limited to only 2 votes per person or something of that effect, so we don't feel like a regional delegate is taking all the votes. Or I also want, regional coordinators to help find those regional delegates, whereas that's not really been the case in the past. As a regional coordinator, I'm a little bit concerned about annual reports if we don't have delegates, whether chapters who aren't really in the running for awards are have any reason to submit an annual report other than to remain in good standing. Adam talked a lot about how chapters are not, there were a lot of chapters who weren't represented, but I think a lot of those chapters were student chapters who have in the past typically not been represented, and mostly have like 1 or 2 members, and some years they'll have 5 or 10, and then another year they'll have 3. So I don't think that the percentage of those chapters not participating with regional delegates is necessarily means.
Jennifer, your time is up.
You can finish up, Jennifer.
That was the majority of what I wanted to say. I do think that Bill's proposals of still having debate and having a method for members and chapters to come up with ways to submit bylaws amendment or bylaws and changes would be a good thing.
You like his recommendation? Good. All right, Jennifer, thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it. All right, Alex, real quick, because we're running out of time, what did you want to put out there for?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I think many of you know, but perhaps not all, I'm going to be chairing the bylaws. So if the board passes this on June 4th, they'll be forwarding it to my committee to come up with language. So I wanted to get a sense of these 2 meetings, what people would like this to look like. So just something to think about between now and the next town hall on June 4th. 2 things. Number 1, the delegate system is not synonymous with the business meeting at a national convention. There are many groups like ours that have business meetings, but without a delegate system. And I think that's what Bob was referring to in NABJ. Basically, any member in good standing who shows up at a convention goes, and every member has a vote, rather than our more convoluted. If you haven't been to one of our delegate meetings in the past, the delegates sit before the voting line, and members who aren't delegates have to sit behind and don't have a vote. So that would go away. I'd like people to think about, if this passes, whatever your sentiments on keeping the delegate system or not, what you would like those business meetings to look like, if any. Do you think there should still be meetings? And what would you like to see at them? Would that be essentially the same without voting? So that was my first question. And my second question is, there are 2 things that the delegates have voted on. Well, actually, they used to vote on the board. If you don't, some of the new members might not know that. We went to one member, one vote for the national board about 10 years ago. And at that time, we discussed doing it for bylaws and resolutions, and we didn't feel that there was the technology to have the input. So now we're revisiting that question. So my question is, they vote on bylaws and resolutions, and do you think these should be treated the same if we draft bylaws amendments on this, or is there something you want different about convention resolutions? Do you want those to have more discussion, for example? So just if you want to think on those two meetings, like questions, what you would think the meetings would look like without the delegate system, and whether bylaws and resolutions should be treated the same. And that is irregardless of whether you support this change or not. Just think about it if it passes, what you would like to see.
Thank you so much for posing those questions, things to think about, members. I'm gonna wrap this up now. And first of all, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. And we do have one more task force town hall that will be at 7 p.m. Pacific time on June 1st, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Again, we need the West Coast people, Nevada and over, to join us. I see several people from the West Coast here already, so thank you. This is for everyone, everyone across the country. So thank you for coming tonight. We'll look at your suggestions. John, let's make sure we keep that chat so we can look at some of the suggestions to maybe put more information on our website if we need to. If you have any questions, please direct them to Adam Sennett or his committee. Again, we as the board are here to listen. We're going to listen to the recorded sessions, hear what you have to say. The feedback is important, whether you are for this change or not. That's important. So I want everybody to have a good week. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate it. Have a good one. I appreciate it. Adam, thank you. Bye. Have a good week. See you June 1st.